Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Bible Q&A. Today we're discussing, if God is against adultery, why did he endorse David's marriage to Bathsheba? In 2 Samuel chapter 11, after David committed adultery with Bathsheba, his family was torn apart and he had to spend some time in exile. Not very fun. However, not only was he spared from execution, but God continued David's lineage through Solomon, one of Bathsheba's children, rather than Adonijah, his firstborn, until it came to Jesus, according to Matthew chapter 1. None of David's other children would have such an illustrious heritage, so why then would God elevate this relationship above all of David's others, given its troubled history? Well, the first reason was rather practical. Since Bathsheba couldn't go back to her husband, if she couldn't get married to David, she would have to sleep with someone else and commit adultery again. If she stayed with David, then she would only commit adultery once. This is why St. Paul advised divorced people not to remarry, unless they wanted to return to their former spouses. Let not the wife depart from her husband, but and if she depart, let her remain unmarried or be reconciled to her husband, and let not the husband put away his wife. 1 Corinthians chapter 7 verses 10 to 11. Secondly, God wanted to prove that he's a forgiving person. There are so many verses in the Bible claiming that he is. As it was said in Psalms, "As far as the east is from the west, so far hath he removed our transgressions from us." Psalms chapter 103 verse 12. "For thou, Lord, art good, and ready to forgive, and plenteous in mercy unto all them that call upon thee." Psalms chapter 86 verse 5. The whole Lord's Prayer is said with the assumption that God can forgive Christians of any sins. For example, Paul persecuted the church, according to his own admission in Galatians chapter 1 verse 13, but God forgave him so that he could build it back even better. As it was said in 1 Timothy, "Howbeit for this cause I obtained mercy, that in me first Jesus Christ might show forth all long suffering, for a pattern to them which should hereafter believe on him to life everlasting." 1 Timothy chapter 1 verse 16. Thus, what better way for God to prove his forgiveness than to forgive David of two of the biggest offenses in the Deuteronomic Code, so that he could bring Israel's glory back? Even if none of Bathsheba's children ended up being great, the fact that they could continue having children together would be strong proof that God left the past in the past. The most important reason, however, was that this act was irrelevant compared to the plan God had for David. As it was said in 1 Samuel, "I took thee from the sheepcote, from following the sheep, to be ruler over my people, over Israel. Moreover, I will appoint a place for my people Israel, and will plant them, that they may dwell in a place of their own, and move no more. Neither shall the children of wickedness afflict them any more, as beforetime." David was going to rule the people of Israel, even if he messed up once or twice, because God could see his character. We also find in 1 Samuel, "The Lord hath sought him a man after his own heart, and the Lord hath commanded him to be captain over his people." He knew that he would help build a righteous kingdom that would foreshadow his own, which would reign over not just Israel, but the world, according to Matthew chapter 13, verses 31 to 32. God didn't see many other people who could do that. Also, David himself would foreshadow Jesus, who would fulfill verse 13 of 1 Samuel 7. "He shall build an house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever." David's political dynasty would end with the reign of Zedekiah, who was captured by the king of Babylon in Jeremiah chapter 52 verse 9, but his spiritual dynasty would continue forever with the reign of Christ. As it was said in Revelation, "And the seventh angel sounded, and there were great voices in heaven, saying, The kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Lord, and of his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever." Revelation chapter 11 verse 15. Not only would all this have never happened if David was punished more harshly, but earlier prophecies would have been messed up as well. For example, Jacob prophesied, The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come, and unto him shall the gathering of the people be. Genesis chapter 49, verse 10. Thus, God decided to teach him a lesson, according to Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 5, but he couldn't just end the whole project over a single act of adultery. Because David was an important part of his project, he thus had some slack compared to others, according to Matthew chapter 17, verses 25 to 26. Now, you could argue that God simply could have used some other son of David to fulfill these prophecies, instead of Solomon in particular, but look at his character and reign. He asked for wisdom in 1 Kings chapter 3, verse 9. He showed mercy to Adonijah in 1 Kings chapter 1, verse 53, who tried to overthrow him before his reign even began. He completed the construction of the temple, and according to Nehemiah chapter 13, verse 16, no future king ever reigned Israel like he did. Thus, just as God saw that David liked him, according to 1 Samuel chapter 13, verse 14, God could anticipate that Solomon would want to rule wisely and thus legitimize David and Bathsheba's relationship. Why would God deny someone like that the chance to rule, just because of the circumstances of his birth? On the other hand, he didn't see that same potential in Saul, according to that same verse, so he didn't let his lineage continue. In fact, he didn't even let him keep his spirit in 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 14, because he knew that Saul wouldn't have any use for it anymore. And that is where I'm going to stop with this Bible Q&A. Why did God endorse David's marriage to Bathsheba? He endorsed it because Bathsheba had no one else, because he's forgiving, and because he had a plan involving David that would lead to the coming of Jesus Christ and the establishment of God's kingdom. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe.